y'all? Thank you for joining us today for this new video series I'm going to try to start doing. Basically, up here at Blitzkrieg, we try to get board games at the table as much as possible. Been a little bit more difficult in the last year or so, but we're starting to see it pick up a little bit more and more. So, since we started this channel, I decided to go ahead and start doing kind of like a first impression of board games that we've played over the time. So basically, this is going to be basically like from January to March, what games we played during then, and basically games that were brand new to the table, at least for me personally, getting to the table. And this is going to be kind of like getting you the first impression of just what I thought about the game basically as we played it, and just seeing where it goes from there. So it's not a big list, it's just the first impressions. And this isn't saying by one way or the other whether I think the game, this just is my first impression of the game. And I figure that's kind of a key important thing. Like I think about games like Cosmic Encounter, one of my favorite games of all time, but I really wish somebody would have told me that I may need to play it a couple times to get kind of used to what the game is like, because first time I played it, I didn't really get into the whole thing. I didn't understand that I need to do all this negotiating and stuff like that. I thought it was just, I just play cards from my hand and do combat and try to win. And I thought the game was just meh. And so I waited 2 to 3 years before I played it again. And then it just took sitting down and somebody telling me, hey, try it again. You probably just had a bad first impression of it, or you just weren't thinking this is the right way the game may be, and now it's one of my favorite games. I play it every chance I get. Enough of that, let's get right into it. The first game that was on the list that we played was Maracaibo. Maracaibo was a game I was kind of looking forward to because it kind of looked like Merchants and Marauders, but I busted that one out, and first impression, I was wanting to play it again immediately. I liked it a lot. It was something I liked in the game. It has this cool little element where you could kind of go your own route on building on your ship, because there's so many upgrades you could do to your ship, whether you want to get victory points, or you just want to get some extra money, or you want extra actions you could do, or you want more cards in your hand. So it had all these different routes you could go on your ship. My only worry about that was, and this is after playing it one more time since that first impression, was, and it kind of felt like there was only 1 or 2 directions I wanted to go on that boat. But that may just be my take on it, whereas I watched somebody else play and they went a totally different direction than I did. They didn't really do what I did on there, and they still done pretty good on the points and whatnot. So that was cool, but my little worry on it. And then there was some worry about on the going around the board, the way you basically could choose where you want to go. So without enough playthroughs, I'm not sure how it felt on whether someone who's just shooting straight to the end is going to get enough victory points to where it makes it worthwhile to shoot to the end, or do you need to kind of move your boat just a little bit just so that you can be sitting and hitting just certain ports so that you can maximize and minimize each little movement. I don't know. Like I said, that's really hard to take without playing it a lot. I can say it was a really cool, unique experience. I really liked, like I said, being able to modify my ship to what I needed to be able, what I felt like I needed to do or may want to do. I liked that you could buy different crewmates, and those give you basically little player powers that make you just a little bit different. And there was just so many things to do in this game. I thought it was really cool. Then you got the war element if you like doing battles, and there was just a lot to pack into this game. I really did enjoy it. I think it is worth a play. Take a chance and look at it, see what it's like. You may find yourself surprised. Like one of the coolest elements I thought was you have a deck of cards that is your base cards that are going to always be in every game, or in every deck basically. But there's a deck of about 100 cards, and you're only going to play with like 40 or 50 of those cards, and you're going to mix 40 or 50 of those 100 cards randomly into that other deck. So you don't know till you've been through the deck at least once whether something actually is in abundance, or whether someone is even available, a certain crewmate or whatever in that deck. And that was a cool element, I thought. And then one element I haven't got to try yet, which may actually add a lot to the game, I think it really will, because I just played the easy mode, hey, you're just learning this first game, is there's a story mode you can go through, and it makes it where you put different tiles on the board. And those different tiles make it to where the actions are different. And so there's just so much upgrade in this. And if they do an expansion, it would be even more upgrades to it. So yes, this was definitely a winner for me, in my opinion. Definitely give it a try. Maybe watch a playthrough. I am going to try to get some playthrough, at least a solo playthrough, or maybe try to get a playthrough on the video, on the channel. It's one of those ones I definitely just want to keep trying again and again and again. The next game that came up, Viscounts of the West Kingdom. I mean, I was already going into this. I love the Garfield games. The Garfield games are so cool to me. I think it's not only because I like with the North Sea, they have the Rune Saga, and with the West Kingdom, they have the Tome Saga, and it looks like they're going to continue to do more things, because they're talking about, like, or at least I've heard rumor of, they're going to do like an East Kingdom and a South Kingdom. And at this point, pretty much Garfield Games releases something, I pretty much buy it and try it out. And I have not found one of their games that I have not liked, at least. And I want to say all but one that I just love to some extent. Viscounts was that one I thought was going to be the game to be all games inside the Garfield games, because it had deck building game element to it, which my favorite game element. I love the deck building game element of games. As I say that, I'm not saying that's a downer. It actually did exactly what I expected it to do. Viscounts came out, and yeah, the deck building is so different and unique to other deck building games that I've played, because you're building your deck to kind of, it's really hard to explain without having played the game, but it was definitely a unique, different take, which is what I started falling in love with Garfield games. I like that they do these different takes on them. Like, for instance, they have Raiders and Paladins where they're worker placement games, but it takes a different element. They add something different, like with Raiders, where you only have one worker, and you're going to place this worker down to get stuff, and then that worker is going to give you another different colored worker, which can only be placed at certain spots that do vice versa, the same thing. That's cool. That was different to me, at least at the time when I played Raiders. So, I mean, I went off on that diatribe because this is exactly what they did at Viscounts. With Viscounts, it took the deck building game element and it threw in an element that I like a lot. It was different. I still think I like Paladins more, at least at the first impression, but my first impression was also only solo, and it was 3 games, and it was me still learning and trying it out, but I loved it. It was great. It was a great game. I enjoyed it. It was just a cornucopia of things. Like, I liked the deck building element of it, but there was also, oh, you like set collecting? Well, set collecting, you can go over here, you can transcribe with your things, and oh, you like the deck building element, or you don't like the deck building element, that scares you. Well, okay, well, you don't have to actually buy these guys in order to be able to do their abilities. You can actually just pay money just like you would to buy them, but instead you just get to just get rid of them, and you still get to do one of the abilities off of them, but you still get the effect from the card. I mean, that was cool. If you like the area control type games, well, they had a little mini game where you could be adding workers into the castle, and when you add workers to the castle, they move around and do this little mini game to get you stuff, and that gets you more area control inside the castle, which can get you victory points. So just which direction you want to go. You want to build some buildings, which give you some more abilities, like making things cheaper or making you better at this. You can go around the board, you can build buildings. And then they even have an element where you can kind of dabble in all of it and just kind of check it out. Like, it was a cool little element of the game. I liked it a lot. Like I said, Garfield Games has not disappointed me ever since I've started picking them up. Every game I buy has just been cool. I'm still liking it. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm looking forward to the next one. At this point, Garfield Games and Elf Creek Games, just because of Elf Creek Games' component quality and being good games, I'll just pretty much take my money. I'm gonna buy it. This is it. Don't really. My only worry really with Viscounts was I felt like there was so much you could do. I don't know. It's real easy to get distracted and not be focusing on what you should be doing. But like I said, that's first impression. If you're enjoying the game and playing it and you love just doing everything, well, do everything. Yeah, great game. Check it out. Viscounts of the West Kingdom. The next one, Abomination, Heir of Frankenstein, which, is right here. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you what I loved about it. So it's just a worker placement game. It felt just like a normal worker placement game. Yeah, you're just going to place here to do this. Yeah, you're going to just place here to do this. What I loved is there's an event/story deck that can be so varied in each game depending on when that card comes down and what round you're on and what can happen in the story. It also made the first player marker more important than just being the first person to be able to place somewhere, since there was so many places you could place anyways. But now the first player may have some selection, or may have some options, I should say, depending on how that story card flips over and what he has to choose. I mean, that story deck alone had me wanting to just see what was going to be coming next on each round. And while I'm playing the game and while I'm doing everything, that was enough to make me instantly want to play the game again. I liked that story element. That story element was really cool. I thought it was something different into just a worker placement game. And I'm not even a huge fan of the Frankenstein stuff, but now I'm pretty sure at this point Abomination is going to be one of those games that every Halloween, when we're doing our up all night survive until dawn for Blitzkrieg, this is going to be one that's going to hit the table every single time, just for the horror element. I mean, you're each building your own little Frankenstein monsters. That was cool. If I had any bad thing to say about the game, they kind of do a bad choice, I thought, on the cubes, which are the resources. And yeah, you can replace the resources and don't worry about the cubes, but it was the color choices. To me, the color choices were too close together. Like, brown looked awfully close to the red that they chose, and the dark blue, purple, royal blue, whatever you want to call it, looked real close to some of the other elements. I mean, the white, of course, stuck out. But yeah, there was just too much. And it's not so much just on the cubes, because the cubes are fine when they're sitting in front of you. That's not a problem. It was more of on the cards, because the card color is so dark, and then you have these dark versions of each of those colors, and it just blended in too much. It got to where I stopped looking at what color it showed and just remembered, oh, this always puts the blood here in this spot of the card, and this always puts the bone or the muscle tissue here. And I just learned where that was at, and just learned, okay, when the number's there, that means it's talking about that resource. That was my only huge complaint about it. And at least first impression, now realize, first impression, first time you play a game, it's gonna be long because you're going slow and you're learning it. I felt this was real long. I want to say it took us like 4 to 5 hours. Now granted, it was 4 people playing and first time playing the game, and everybody learning the elements of the game and whatnot. So once again, first impression. But other than that, the story element was enough for me to want to just try it. If you're a huge Frankenstein fan, you like the Mary Shelley, if you like the Frankenstein books and the story, I think this is another take. This is taking place after Frankenstein. So this is, the monster has come back and it's trying to train new people to keep his creator's science alive. But that's Abomination, Heir of Frankenstein. The next one I really can't go into too much detail about is Pandemic Legacy Season 0. I cannot go into too much detail about that one because of the spoiler element in the game. Because it is a legacy game. What I will say is, I do like the game a lot. I don't know if I like it more than I did Season 1 as of right now. First impression of it is, I think it's still good. I think Season 1 was just a great story and great experience. Season 0 is still good. The thing I have to say right off the bat to give you a first impression on it, it is much harder. It's not just about getting the number of cards if you play Pandemic and getting the number of cards and just curing the disease. This is a little bit more. This is, you have to get the cards and do an extra step in order to take care of the stuff that's on the board. So I can't really go into too much detail about it, like I said, because it is a legacy game, but it's still pretty good experience so far. I think we've gone about 5 months in, and it's still, there's another element I really like a lot. It wasn't just like, I guess this isn't really going to be spoilerific on it. If it is, sorry. But with Pandemic Season 1, it was pretty much the same thing. I mean, you had some different objectives you had to pull off depending on where you were at in the story, but it was pretty much the same thing. You played the same thing each turn, and it was just how the cards came down. This is different. At least where we're at this point, they keep putting new objectives out there. I mean, we kind of have to do the same, but it's not. It's really hard to talk about without going into the spoiling of it, but definitely worth a pickup if you are a fan of Pandemic Season 1. This is Pandemic Season 0. It is different. You're not going after viruses. You can tell just off the back of the box. It's about spies and whatnot. So definitely worth to check out. Just don't have much I can really say about it. The next game would be Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia, which I believe is right here. It is a Stonemaier Games that I'd always heard things about. I'd even had promos that I was sitting on for a long time before I finally was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and check this game out, see what it's all about. It is a dice worker placement game where the dice are your workers. There was a lot of really cool things here. If you played other Stonemaier games, you'll see a lot of their same elements mixed into this one, like the authority stars or about the victory points, which is from, or which you'll see inside and whatnot. So you can see this was an earlier version of some of his games. I do like one thing about it a whole lot. There is a deck of cards that are recruits, I believe they're called. Do not remember right off the top of my head, but there's a deck of cards, and those are kind of like your player powers. And there's so many different ones, and you get to choose which one you're going to start with. And then you have a hidden one that later will unlock, and you'll get to flip over, which will give you more player power. And then you can also do things to get even more recruits so that you get more player powers, but also these could be ways of going to victory points. So that was a really cool element I thought in the game. I do think if I had any bad thing to say about it, one, the solo, either just poorly written in my opinion, or just my Aggie brain cannot figure out. If you watch my playthrough, which I did, there's a lot of little things where I felt like, man, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, or I don't know about this. But other than that, we did get to the table with 3 people, and I found it was a much better experience there. And then, even with that 3-player experience, I felt if there was anything bad to say about it, and this is just to give you a first impression once again, was it felt like this other game I played where the game could just end instantly, because you kind of feel this slowly building up momentum as you're getting your resources and getting your influence and authority out there, and as markets are getting flipped over, you start feeling it just snowball in effect to where all of a sudden people are just putting authority stars down left and right. So that was an element that you have to realize is coming up, so the game could just instantly smash end. And it may not be you that won because of it, because it's the first person to get their authority stars down. But all in all, it was an enjoyable game. I do recommend, even after the 3-player, I felt like this is a game that shines better with more than 3 players. And I don't really think there'll be a lot of downtime between the players, because your turns are real fast. It's pretty much put a dice down, get the resources. Or put a dice down, put down a star. It doesn't really get very complicated in there. It's pretty much spend resources, get something. So real fast. So I do think this is one that will shine better once we are able to put more people on the table with it. But it was a cool little experience in my opinion. So worth checking out if you like those dice worker placements, or you're a fan of the Stonemaier games, which is another reason why I just went ahead and picked it up immediately also, or as soon as I remembered about it. But yeah, so that was Euphoria, Build a Better Dystopia. The last game to talk about is Rival Restaurants. Now Rival Restaurants, it's one of those games that it basically is like the TV show, I don't know, I don't watch it, but it's called like Chopped, I think, where basically you're You're trying to get ingredients and basically put together recipes, and those recipes score you victory points, which makes your restaurant more famous. Now, one of the cool things I liked about this game was every restaurant is different. So like you're looking for certain recipes depending on what type of restaurant you are. But on top of that, you also get a unique chef that also helps you with either certain recipes or some type of ability, which if you've watched any of my playthroughs, you know I love player powers. So basically getting a player power that helps you to excel at that restaurant. If I had any worries that I saw in the game, really, while I enjoyed the game a lot, it had a lot of things, it seemed like it was real easy for someone to be able to move ahead. And at a certain point, like I got stuck in a spot where I was pretty much, if anything I did, I was going to be a kingmaker. And I don't know if that was just a situation that I hit in the game, or if it was something that is something that always will happen in the game. Because at a certain point, it felt like, well, if I go over here, I can't really come back from this. But if I go over here and I grab certain ingredients trying to just get as many points as I can, well, that's going to make it where this person can't finish their recipe, but this person's going to be able to finish theirs. Or if I play this one card, that's going to hurt this person over here, but now this person's going to be able to do something. May have just been a bad situation I hit. But other than that, it was a cool game. It was real fun. And if you're into that type of game, there was even a little moment where you're able to trade recipes or trade ingredients while you're getting the ingredients. So it makes it to where you have a little 2-minute period where you can just kind of do that, and it puts some little rush in the game, like what I pictured happens on the TV show, basically. So I think it's definitely, if that's something that's down your alley, it's definitely something to kind of check out and see if it's something you'll enjoy. So with that, we're going to kind of look at what games we can get at the table for the next 3 months. We'll see what new ones we can hit. I'm always interested in playing new games. I am an Omni gamer. I like to try to play as many as I can. So with that, we'll see what new games we get to the table by July. Thank you for checking it out. Have a great day.